Yeah, so thank you so much, Thierry, and thank you to Cap Liberté de Conscience and Global Human Rights Defense for organizing this session. And as she said, Chloe, or no, not Chloe, but Renata, at the perfect. At the beginning, this is really a human rights emergency. It impacts, so many aspects of human rights, both freedom of religion and belief, but as we've seen and heard from the stories, both the prohibition of torture and also prohibition on slavery, because many of these girls end up exploited in very slavery-like conditions, and we've heard that from both Special Rapporteur on contemporary forms of slavery, Tomoyo Obokata, who's raised that in his his communications with the Pakistani authorities. So my name is Hulda Fahmi, and I'm with Jubilee Campaign, and Jubilee Campaign is an ECOSOC accredited organization since 2003, and our work focuses on promoting the rights of religious and ethnic minorities, and also raising the status of vulnerable women and children, and to protect them from bodily harm and exploitation. So the beginning of my remarks will focus on a report that not myself but my colleagues in the US and in Pakistan worked on forced religious conversions, and just summarizing that, and then I'll go into recommendations. So the report that they worked on, we've heard the statistics. There's like between 1,000 to likely more than 1,000 forced religious conversion cases every year in Pakistan, and this report wasn't to just go through like the general numbers, but to focus on individual, to see, like our colleague just mentioned, to find trends within these cases. And it looked through 100 cases, and the focus was on Christian girls, but as we've heard, it affects women from all different minorities, and actually this is the highest percentage actually Hindus, but this is focused on the Christian girls, and examined 100 cases between January 2019 and October 2022, and we're coming out with a new report because unfortunately right now there's also a case ongoing. So this is not like a unfortunately stagnant issue. It's constantly ongoing, and that's why we actually want to see a systematic change, not just, like you said, individual cases is great, but actually we want to see an end to this injustice. And I think Bonhoeffer has an excellent quote about that. We want to put a spoke in the wheel of injustice, not just bandage the wounds of victims. And I think that's what we all on this panel really would like to see. So in 2021, there were 42 cases, 2019, 27 cases, in 2020, 12 cases, and only in the first 10 months of 2022, there were 19 cases. And the vast majority of these cases on Christian girls occurred in Punjab, where 86% of the cases happened, and then Sindh, 11%, Islamabad, 2%, and I'm going to say this wrong, but in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, you guys have to correct me, 1% of the cases. So in this situation, the introduction of the Punjab, increasing the marriage age is important, and I'll go into why. And of course, as we heard, the special procedures have said that a large percentage were Hindu, but this report was on Christian girls, and of course it affects girls between 14 and 18, and some are even younger, and often they face heightened risk, and they're exposed to physical and sexual abuse and exploitation, and social stigma and severe trauma also afterwards. And we're thankful the experts, you and special experts, raised this in a communication and followed it with press release in 2023 and 2024, and then of course just recently. And with regards to the ages of the girl victims, that from the 100 cases that my colleagues went through, 61% were under the age of 18. That's ridiculous. And 18% were between the ages of 16 and 18. 14% were over 18 years, and 7% of victims' ages were not reported. And of course, these 100 cases don't represent, as I said, don't represent everyone, because not everyone, these were the ones that were registered at the police stations with an FIR report. But sometimes families don't even want to do that, because first of all, they're scared. Second of all, when you live in a society where your voice is a pretty not listened to. You don't see the point. And then thirdly, sometimes the police won't even do their job and register an FIR report, or they'll delay it when it's pointless because it's gone so many days and the child is already married off. And then the average age difference between the victims and their kidnappers, who they were forced to marry, was 29.9 years. And the largest age difference in our sample was 36 years, and it was a case of a 40-year-old man who abducted a 9-year-old girl. And the smallest age difference of our sample was 24 years, and it was a 37-year-old man who kidnapped a 13-year-old girl. And so I let that speak for itself. And then, so why Christians or why minorities? I think there's many issues. We heard about like the socioeconomic situation. They're vulnerable. They don't have the means to support themselves. And actually it results from like long-term discrimination. There was a report Amnesty did on how the Christians are forced to work in the sanitary jobs and not given the opportunities to work higher up. And even when they do, you have the case of the blasphemy case against a nurse. So when they do a good job, they face also discrimination from their colleagues and could risk a blasphemy allegation just because they're jealous or because they don't appreciate that they're doing well. And then a second aspect is that there is a separate legal system. So if with the forced religious conversion, you put the child under an Islamic legal system, which the family also is not very accustomed to, and also it makes it harder to get justice. And like I said at the beginning, even now there's a case being tried of Amber Nadim, and thankfully they were able to get legal help, so they raised it with the court. But the court refused to return the girl because of her conversion. Because they said she has been converted to Islam, so if she goes back to her Christian family, she would become a Christian. So they won't return her. You know, in the worst case scenarios, and in many of the cases that our colleagues worked on, the girl was returned to the abductor. But even when you do get legal help in a timely fashion, they won't return it to the family because they need to guarantee that the girl is still following Islam, and they don't feel that can be guaranteed if she's returned. So that's why the forced religious conversion also leaves the girl very, very isolated. And we've heard also about sometimes they also report a fake age. And now in this case also with Amber in Punjab, the family knows what her age is, and she is under 18, but they were saying she's over 18, the abductors. And so now there's going to be they're going to look at, try and determine the age of the girl, but you have these false fake age documents and false marriage certificates. And then you have this cooperation between the religious leaders and the police. And as I said, many are reluctant to report because of the stigma also that's attached with kidnapping and the sexual abuse. There's also a lot of intimidation and harassment, which means that they can't register. And so those were, and there's additional, and many courts and judges and police continue to accept false documentation provided by the perpetrators. So that's one more aspect maybe to, raise the level or like the quality of documents, and not to accept any kind of documents, and to have maybe a file where you can actually see the age of children, and so you know who this is, and follow through with it. So just also the Punjab Child Marriage Restraints Act was approved by majority vote, and that was used also to, in this case of Amber, to again, emphasize that she cannot be forcibly married. And then there was also a discussion about, it just stops it from being registered, but not solemnized, which means, anyways. So that was also a big discussion. So, like you said, even when the law is there, then people are still trying to find ways to avoid it, which is very concerning. So it's been used by perpetrators. I mean, perpetrators are really trying to find ways around it, and unfortunately the law and police, who are actually supposed to be on the side of the victims and protect and defend the rights of the child, are using the logic of the abusers. And so it's very important that they receive training and also perhaps introduce an ombudsman. So yeah, I'll just conclude now that, ensure that cases involving allegation of forced child marriage and forced religious conversions and sexual violence of girls from faith minority communities are independently and impartially investigated, with a view to all conditions of coercion or threat under which such marriages are contracted and alleged religious conversions are made. And again, also not taking the statement of the girl and relying on a statement of a girl under duress and putting it in the court documents as a statement when it clearly was put when she's facing her abductors and saying, oh, she said this, she said she wanted to get married, she's 13, and of course that's definitely what she wanted. That's very concerning. Ensure that in addition to the prompt rescue and return of victims to their families, prosecution of perpetrators is pursued with legal punishment commensurate to the crimes committed. And of course, ensure their timely recovery. And then also conduct research on the prevalence and scale of abductions, forced religious conversions, and child marriages in Pakistan. And again, we also raised the recommendation about GSP+, and of course there's the 27 conventions, and included is the ICCPR, the prohibition of torture, and these violate all of those. And and we just wanted to raise that the case now of Amber Nadeem is an important test case for Pakistan's willingness to enforce both domestic and child protection laws and its international commitments. So will they genuinely and truly apply them in this case, and maybe it can be an example then for other states to do likewise. I'm going to end there, but you can find the report on our website, and there are some very great recommendations. We also submitted a report specifically in the US context, because we're also, but also within the UN setting, since we're here, there is the resolution on child early and forced marriage, and Jonas Fibrands, who chairs the working group, has done incredible work also in leading a coalition to get language that actually recognizes victims of forced religious conversions. So, thank you.